K-Man Daily Weather is presented by Fox Business Systems. How much does downtime cost you and your business? Don't let another second go by. Call Fox Business Systems at 776-1452.
News Radio KMAN weather.
65 outside here at News Radio KMAN. Today we'll see cloudy, then becoming mostly sunny skies, a high around 79. Could see winds as high as 25 miles an hour, burn bans in effect across the region. Then tonight, a 20% chance of showers, increasing clouds 61. Thursday, showers likely, possibly some thunderstorms, high near 79. Thursday night, showers likely, possibly some thunderstorms, partly cloudy, 49. Then Friday, sunny, 74. Friday night, mostly clear, 46. Another chance of showers and thunderstorms return on Saturday. It's time for Within Reason with Mike Matson here on News Radio KMAN.
Digging deeper into the conversations, trends, and ideas impacting Manhattan and the Flint Hills. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
Over the last 7.5 years, Kansas has been on a bit of an economic shopping spree, landing big-ticket projects like a Kansas City Chiefs Stadium and a Panasonic electric vehicle battery plant, dusting off and modernizing its incentive toolbox. My guest today is the lead strategist and the point person for that effort. Lieutenant Governor David Toland has made Kansas more competitive, attracting investment, jobs, and national attention, once uncommon for these parts. My name is Mike Matson. I am your host for Within Reason. I'm a lifelong Kansan. I am a former radio and TV news reporter. I describe myself as a recovering political operative and lobbyist. These days, I'm a semi-retired author and columnist for the Manhattan Mercury. Bring what I hope is a career's worth of journalistic instincts to this job. We have this idea, this notion that if more people think longer and think deeper about our community, about the conversations underway in our community, in our region, our state, and our nation, then better decision-making will follow. We are live on News Radio KMAN. We are live streaming on YouTube, and we're being recorded and will be posted as an unedited audio podcast, made available on the KMAN website and wherever you get audio podcasts. Our partners on Within Reason are Stormont Vale Health, McCown Gordon Construction, and the Trust Company. They agreed with our premise that critical thinking raises the bar on the dialogue and adds value to everything we do. David Toland, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Glad to have you here. I assume you're hitting the ground running and you have many places to go today.
Well, we've got events in Manhattan, Salina, then I'm back in Topeka, got a night event as well, and I'm going to have dinner with my daughter, who's a freshman in Lawrence.
It sounds like you've got the priorities in the right order. We appreciate your taking time to visit with us today. Eager to have a conversation about economic development writ large, what it's looked like in the Kelly administration, and some of the things that are underway here in Manhattan as well. But before we get too far down the path, for people who may not be familiar with you, give us the David Toland 101.
The David Toland 101. I am a seventh-generation Kansan, very proud of that. So my ancestors came to Kansas in 1857. They were rabid free soilers. They wanted to ensure that Kansas became a free state, and we have had a presence in Allen County, specifically in southeast Kansas, since that time. So my son is the eighth generation to be born and raised in Iola, in Allen County. So graduated high school in 1995, went to KU, and like many let's say too many young Kansans, I left the state with my also Kansas-born wife, who I met in college. And she and I went to the East Coast. And I worked for 6 years for Mayor Tony Williams, who was the reformer elected after the infamous Marion Barry.
In Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C.,
okay.
So in the District of Columbia government. And had a wonderful ride there, including getting to work on some high-profile economic development deals like the Montreal Expos that became the Washington Nationals and that whole stadium deal.
Sure.
So kind of a funny thing how that came around 20 years later.
We will talk about stadiums here as we go along.
Yeah. And so had a unique opportunity to come home to Allen County back in 2008. And that opportunity was created by the sale of a health system in Kansas. The Health Midwest chain of hospitals was a nonprofit. It was sold to HCA, which is a for-profit. They took the assets, the proceeds from that sale, and set up two foundations that served 6 counties, 5 in the Kansas City metro, and the other was Allen County, where I'm from. And so the local folks wanted someone to ensure that we got our share of the pie and could do some good things with it. Got a random call in my office in Washington, D.C. from my old family doc back in Iola. And a few months later, my wife and I and our little baby girl were leaving our row house in Washington, D.C. for 5 acres on the edge of Iola. And it's been an interesting ride ever since.
And so you do Thrive Allen County for a number of years, doing that work clearly, get involved in meeting a lot of stakeholders that operate at the statewide level. Is that what led to politics?
Yeah, I got involved in the 2014 gubernatorial race out of a concern for our state and, the fact that our family had kind of bet the farm on the idea that our community could be turned around. You could reverse a century of decline in rural Kansas, and there were some significant headwinds we felt coming from Topeka at that time. And so I got involved a little bit trying to help candidates in 2014, and then did the same thing in 2018, which is how I met Laura Kelly. But I had never been on a ballot. I had never sought elected office. I didn't want a job in Topeka. I was quite happy running a little nonprofit in my little hometown and being able to raise my kids in a walkable place and do all the things that we set out to do.
But a lot of Kansans, I'm sure, are in your position when the governor or the governor-elect gives you a call and says, I want you, I'd like you to come and do X, Y, Z. It's kind of hard to say no.
Well, I did say no. I don't know if
we need to take some lessons from you.
but obviously it didn't stick.
Okay, fair enough.
And so, and I'm really glad it didn't stick, because being Secretary of Commerce in particular has been the joy of my professional life. It's been incredible. So
you're Secretary of Commerce, you're Lieutenant Governor, right? 2 full-time jobs. We'll get into that as we go along. But we mentioned at the very top of the show, it's no secret that there has been significant economic development success in the Kelly administration, led by you and the Commerce Department. Give us a sense, just the macro view, the 100,000-foot view of how you approach that work.
Well, ultimately, I believe it comes down to taking a holistic view of what drives human decisions. So, in the previous administration, the approach to economic development had been, we just have to cut taxes, and that will be enough to bring businesses and residents. They will just flock to Kansas if we eliminate the income tax. We did that and quickly found that people were up in arms, businesses were up in arms, because there's a certain level of public services that people expect. We all want to live in civilized society. That takes revenues to pay for good public schools, for good roads, for social services that keep us knit together as a people. And so as we approach economic development in the Kelly-Toland administration, it's been about ensuring that we have a balanced approach to community building, and that starts with livable places. It starts with places like Points here in Manhattan, where you drive down that street and it's vibrant, it's alive. You've got everything from flower baskets to people having cocktails at on the sidewalk. It is a great place that draws people. People are the ones who make the decisions for businesses. And so that's the type of approach that we've tried to take. It starts with quality of life. You've got to have reasonable tax policy, and I think we do. You've also got to ensure that you have the resources to support infrastructure enhancements. You get a new factory, you might need a turn lane on the highway. You're going to have to extend utilities. So we've really tried to be thoughtful about not just going deep on real estate or on rail or roads, but to look at the panoply of things that drive these business decisions.
We are visiting today with Lieutenant Governor David Toland, who also serves as Kansas Commerce Secretary. And right now we're sort of laying the foundation for economic development and what it's looked like the last 7.5 years under Governor Kelly and Lieutenant Governor Toland. So I want to say, I seem to recall when you guys first took office, you sort of cleared the decks and came up with a whole new strategy for dealing with this. Granted, a lot of that is just structure and process, but it sounds like you needed to lay that foundation before you could get to work on what eventually became your successes?
Well, we needed to understand exactly where we were as a state. And so we hired top-notch experts to look at the data, look at the trends, to make sure that we could compare where Kansas is versus our competitor states, but also what are the trends in advanced manufacturing? What are the trends in the dairy industry, for example? What percentage of jobs that exist currently in Kansas are at risk of being lost due to automation? And turns out many of those projections, which were scary at the time, they were right on, and they wound up being coming to life because of COVID. So you look at the automation in meat packing in Southwest Kansas. So we started with that. We did the deep dive on the data. We developed what's called the Kansas Framework for Growth to guide how the state would approach economic development. And if you look at the results, 89% of the economic development wins that we've had as a state fall within the sectors that were identified in that plan. So we did a plan, we've stuck to the plan, and it's worked.
Work your plan and plan your work. I think I heard that from Bill Graves, who learned that from his father, by the way, right?
Yes.
So generational things in Kansas. A fair review of David Toland must first come to grips with a basic reality. He is not a ceremonial lieutenant governor. He has been the central architect of Kansas' economic development strategy under Governor Laura Kelly. That makes his record unusually substantive and unusually contested. We're just getting started with Kansas Lieutenant Governor David Toland. We'll talk about the Chiefs. We'll talk about the Edge. Stay with us.
We're bringing the studio to your screen. Within Reason live on YouTube each day. Subscribe now and join the conversation.
At Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care is right around the corner.
Stormont Vale Health is more than just a hospital. We're an essential part of your community. Our commitment to quality healthcare means investing in the most skilled and talented providers and cutting-edge medical technology. Our investment in your well-being doesn't stop there. We also support various nonprofit programs throughout the communities we serve. Visit StormontVale.org and discover how we can serve you.
Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care, closer to home.
Presented by Chick-fil-A and Community First National Bank. America 250. Happy birthday, America, where freedom is written, protected, and lived every day.
The strength of a justice system is measured by how it protects the rights of every individual, even the accused. The Bill of Rights guarantees critical protections: the right to remain silent, the right to attorney, protection from unreasonable searches and seizures, the right to a fair and speedy trial, protection against cruel and unusual punishment. These rights ensure fairness, dignity, and accountability within the legal system. They remind us that justices must be guided by law, not by emotion, and that liberty must be a safeguard for all citizens. For generations, these protections have upheld the principles of fairness and due process in American life. America 250, defending the rights that protected us all.
Brought to you by Chick-fil-A, Community First National Bank, Faith Furniture, Rothwell Landscape, Visit Manhattan, the Museum of Art and Light, and Manhattan Broadcasting.
Spring has sprung at Blueville Nursery. The greenhouse is full of bright spring flowers and cool season veggies. Outside, trees, shrubs, and perennials are starting to make their appearance. Now is also the time to start amending your soil. We recommend Cottonburg compost. The store is full of seeds, potatoes, asparagus, and onions. Don't forget your crabgrass preventer and pre-emergence to prevent headaches later on this season. Blueville Garden Store is open Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. Come give us a visit at Blueville Nursery, where you'll always find a friendly smile and expert advice. Located at the corner of Scenic Drive in Anderson and Manhattan.
At ESB Financial, we think it makes sense to pay you. That's right, get paid 5.04% annual percentage yield on balances up to $20,000 with our free Kasasa Cash checking account. We'll even refund your ATM fees nationwide, and the best part is there's no monthly service charges or minimum balances to keep. All you have to do to earn your rewards are a few simple things each month. The best part? These things make banking easier. Visit esbfinancial.com to learn more. Special terms may apply. ESB Financial, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The Ramsey Show.
My husband purchased a $300,000 McLaren.
going to lose his job, and we're living on my income in Southern California.
Which is what?
Less than $100,000.
The car is the symptom of him doing extreme behaviors.
Man.
I agree.
And it's terrifying you. Terrifying me listening to it.
There's something going on.
Yeah, it's really frightening.
Life and money advice. The Ramsey Show, weekdays from 10 to 1 on News Radio KMAN. The Ramsey Show, today at 10. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
We are back with a man who wears two of the biggest hats in government in the Sunflower State. David Toland is at once Lieutenant Governor of Kansas and Secretary of Commerce. Two full-time jobs. What's the biggest challenge doing that?
Well, you got more dogs than bones. I mean, every day. And the issues are different. You know, on the LG side, you have people that are coming in with constituent issues related to a pothole in Garden City. And, you know, you want to explain, number one, that's not a state issue. Number two, if it were, I'm happy to put you in touch with the right people. But it's a job that doesn't have the authority to fix a pothole in Garden City. So I'm very, very busy as LG when the legislature's in session from January typically to May, not this year, but early April. And at the same time, year-round, I'm Secretary of Commerce. We have certain peaks and valleys that are kind of cyclical. There's a rhythm to that work as well. And so this time of year, we get really busy with international travel and making sure we're going around the world to sell the Kansas brand and to make sure that companies that are evaluating North America and the United States aren't thinking first about New York or California or Chicago. It's kind of like the movie Coming to America. Where, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And they say, the United States, the land is so vast, the choices are so diverse. Where should we go? New York or Los Angeles?
Right.
And when you're in Kansas, it's really important that you show up in these places around the world and explain the advantages that come with being in the middle of the country, how much simpler it is to set up shop, to get going, how you can mitigate risk by being in a Midwestern state, the work ethic.
Exactly. Before you get to work ethic, before you get to middle of the country, family culture, right? All of those things that add value to that. Visiting today with Lieutenant Governor David Toland, who also serves as Kansas Secretary of Commerce. There's no secret that one of the biggest things that's kept you busy here in recent months has been the Kansas City Chiefs and their decision to build a stadium in Wyandotte County. And we're not going to get into specific detail, but just take us back to the beginning of those conversations. When did they start? And just in a broad general sense, what was the chronology and how long did it take?
Well, we're at 24 months since that process started. And it started when the voters in Jackson County, Missouri, opted not to renew an existing sales tax that was requested by the Chiefs and the Royals to improve their stadiums. And the result of that overwhelming rejection of the sales tax was those two teams, which are businesses, started looking at other options. And so at that time, Kansas came to the table. The legislature passed I'd call it Star Bonds on steroids.
Yeah.
It's a very aggressive incentive tool that was designed specifically to enable us to recruit one Major League Baseball team and one NFL team. And so we had two recruitments going on at the same time. We were working with both teams, and these are very different projects. And we were able to ultimately land the Chiefs. As everybody knows, it's a $3 billion stadium that will be in Wyandotte County. You'll have a roughly $300 million headquarters and practice facility in Johnson County in Olathe. And it's going to have a massive economic impact on the state.
Is there a lot of taxpayer exposure in this deal?
No, and that's the beauty of this deal. So with Star Bonds, they are not an obligation of the taxpayers. So people ask, well, who are they an obligation of? And it comes down to the people who buy these bonds are the ones that take the risk on whether or not they're going to pay off or not. As a result of that risk, you have a slightly higher interest rate that comes with it versus what are called general obligation bonds, which are backed by the taxpayers. This isn't that. Star bonds are not backed by the taxpayers.
Well, and star bonds are, I say new, relatively new tool in the toolbox for economic developers. I mean, probably the last generation or so.
Yeah, about 25 years.
Right, and you think about that. So it's basically sales taxes within a geographically drawn district. I'll make an assumption, so check me on the assumption, that the drawing of the boundaries of the district becomes very important.
It's critically important. It's a math exercise. It's an arithmetic exercise, and it's a cartographic exercise as well. And so you've got to make sure that you got the revenues to support the size of the bond issuance. But what we're talking about on the revenues is not any existing dollars that are currently flowing to cities or to the state, but rather the new money that comes as a result of the project. So that's what goes to service the star bonds.
When you think about Clark Hunt, right, and all the legacy with the Hunt family and the ownership of the Chiefs, and when you just think about NFL owners in general, these are big leaguers, right? These are guys that operate at a level or two above you and I, right? And I can imagine there's some ego involved with that. When you look at the new stadiums that are being built, Los Angeles, Nashville, they got to keep up with each other, and so that's got to be part of this. Was that a challenge for you guys when you were dealing with this?
It's like playing gin rummy with Zeus. You are really playing at a high level, and you got to keep in mind at all times, these are businesses. And
that's a great point. These are private sector businesses that are designed to earn a profit.
Exactly.
Just like the mom and pop Main Street merchant.
Just like the mom and pop Main Street merchant, just like the manufacturers that we recruit to Kansas every day, and we use incentives to get them here.
It just so happens that the rest of us love their product and we pay money to watch it, and that makes it a little bit of a different animal.
Well, it's a much higher profile animal.
Right.
And so there are many, many more opinions about something like a Chiefs deal than there are about the factory that just came to town.
How many fans do the Chiefs have? There's that many opinions?
Oh, at least.
Okay. So give us a sense. I know at some point there was sort of a truce between Missouri and Kansas on big deals like that. Did that get blown up over this, or was it the sales tax that failed in Jackson County, Missouri, that was the fulcrum?
So what occurred here was, first in 2019, Governor Kelly and Governor Parson from Missouri agreed not to offer incentives to companies that would border hop, meaning you'd be on the Missouri side of the state line, you would move 2 blocks into Kansas so you get Kansas incentives. When those ran out in a few years, you'd move back to Missouri so you get Missouri incentives. That's not economic development. That's absolutely a waste. And so the 2 states agreed not to offer incentives in those cases. 3 counties in Missouri were affected, 3 counties in Kansas. That truce, as far as the Kelly-Toland administration is concerned, still stands. That truce never included star bonds. That was not a tool that was included in the truce. And so what happened last summer is the state of Missouri pulled out of the truce. This is before the Chiefs deal.
Right.
And following that, the city of Kansas City, Missouri, which had passed an ordinance as well, they pulled out of the truce. So at this point, Governor Kelly's executive order stands, and we are continuing to not offer incentives from companies that move from those places in Missouri into Kansas. We haven't had a violation by Missouri either that we're aware of.
Sure.
But so that's the situation.
So last question related to the Chiefs. Once the sales tax in Jackson County, Missouri failed, the Hunt folks, the Chiefs management had to think, all right, we need to look at the whole picture here. That brought them to Kansas. Was it easier to have was there an incentive for them to sit down with the state of Kansas and cut a deal after that? Were they done with Missouri?
Well, I can't speak to that. What I can say is Kansas was not recruiting the Chiefs or the Royals prior to the failure of that sales tax vote. This was an issue that we watched, but we had no plans of going after the teams until that vote failed.
And so when they knocked on the door, you
when that vote
answered
failed,
the door.
all bets were off, and we went to work.
And so when you think about the Chiefs and what's going to happen now, the deal is pretty much done. Has the map been drawn on star bond jurisdictions?
It hasn't. Okay. We're in the process of doing that. There's bond underwriters that'll be involved. There's a lot of pieces that have to go into effect, but we have to have the stadium done by the 2031 season. So there's that deadline will not move, and so the gears are turning, and there's a lot of work happening right now.
What should people watch for? What's the next shoe that will drop? What's the next big thing that will occur in the chronology of the stadium being built in Kansas?
Well, we'll have a bond sale that'll be late this year, early next year. You'll have the announcement on the general contractor for the stadium. We hope to see dirt moving very, very soon at some point next year. The design is underway. So it'll get exciting when you start to see it come out of the ground. And what's most exciting to me, though, it's not just a stadium project. The stadium is the anchor for a mixed-use development. The Chiefs are putting in $1 billion worth of additional development on top of the $1.2 billion they're putting into the stadium. So I'm really proud of how this deal turned out. It's a 60-40 split between Star Bonds and the Chiefs. We could have gone as high as 70% on the state side. We landed at 60, and if you can imagine what it's like to negotiate with Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan, very tough competitors, very successful people. I'm really proud that we landed at 60% rather than 70. And there was no requirement in the law that the team put in any sort of mixed-use development, anything above and beyond that. So we got $1 billion above and beyond, which is what's going to make this, I think, the best NFL destination in the country.
David Toland is best understood not as a typical lieutenant governor, but as a CEO-style economic development operator in a political role. More still to come with Kansas Lieutenant Governor, Commerce Secretary David Toland. Stay with us.
This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio, KMAN.
At Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care is right around the corner.
Stormont Vale is more than just a health system. We're your neighbors, dedicated to supporting the well-being of our community and the Flint Hills region. With our strong partnerships, including collaborations with the Mayo Clinic Care Network, other healthcare providers, and various community organizations, we're committed to offering personalized, high-quality care when and where you need it most.
Stormont Vale Health, high-quality care closer to home.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
For over 50 years, Big Lakes has supported adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, helping individuals live full, meaningful lives. To continue that mission, several homes need a remodel so that the people they serve can age safely and comfortably. You can help on Grow Green Match Day. On April 22nd, donations made through the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation will be matched 50%. Your support will make the Big Improvement campaign possible, maintaining comfortable, accessible homes for those they serve. Visit growgreenmanhattan.com to donate and make twice the impact.
This is Vern Hendricks, and I'd like to invite you to join Dave Lewis and me every Monday morning at our new time, 9 a.m. here on News Radio KMAN. For the GMCF Community Hour, we enjoy celebrating the time, talents, and treasures of our community leaders and nonprofits each week. We will share GMCF updates, learn from community nonprofits, and provide you with upcoming community charitable events. For more information, call us at 587-8995 or visit our website at mcfks.org.
GMCF, helping you make a difference.
If you've missed the Kim Commando Show, you've missed a lot.
But you're getting scammed. Scammers will take money from anyone. Doesn't matter how young, how old you are, how rich, how poor.
Short, tall, fat, skinny.
As soon as she went to WhatsApp, we both looked at each other and going, yeah, ugh.
Has anyone asked you to go to Telegram or WhatsApp? That tells you it's a scam.
America's digital goddess,
Kim Commando. Kim Commando. Saturday mornings at 9 on News Radio KMAN. KMAN's Morning News. Tomorrow morning, 6 to 9. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
We're back visiting today with David Toland. One way to describe his efforts as Lieutenant Governor and Commerce Secretary is to create jobs, aggressive, results-oriented. Another way would be to describe it as high-risk, high-reward, right? When you think about the work that you do. And I guess there's probably no shinier example than right here in Manhattan with what happened with Scorpius, right? They had indicated they wanted to come in and build a great big plant out there in Pott County at the corner of US 24 and XL Road. Never came about. They're not all wins, right? You're not going to get them all.
You're not. I think, I'm glad we're talking about Scorpius because it's a great company. They had a great concept, and the market changed. And specifically, the equity markets changed. And so something that worked when we announced it with them then didn't work 12, 18 months later. And so when you say high risk, high reward in economic development, what we do is everything we can to mitigate risk, which means with incentives, we give the incentives the vast, vast, vast majority of the time, 98, 99% of the time, the incentives are earned. They come after you build the factory, after you buy the equipment, after you hire the people, then you get the tax incentive. And so in the case of Scorpius, that was a deal where, fortunately, no taxpayer dollars were lost.
Right.
This was something where we all shook hands. And I think K-State, Manhattan, Riley and Pottawatomie counties and the state are all better for having gone through that experience because we were able to mobilize a talent pipeline that we are now selling to other companies as we go out and recruit new jobs to come to Kansas.
Well, and if nothing else, it is a prime example of something you mentioned earlier with respect to these are private sector companies, and they will make decisions based on the marketplace. And as it happened, the decisions they needed to make did not allow them to come here, right? And so then it becomes, from your perspective and the local chamber and the local community, just sort of an exercise in managing expectations, right? We say it's going to come and then it doesn't. It's not whose fault is it? You don't want to point fingers, but that has to be part and parcel of the work that you're involved with.
Yeah, and I lament what I see and hear, in public life at the moment. I think the mood is not great in America right now.
One of the reasons this show exists.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important that a lot of people they need to put down the sickle and look at how many things are going well in Kansas, in Manhattan, and the Flint Hills region specifically. There's a lot of good that we can focus on. And instead of the kind of gotcha commentary that you see in the cesspool of social media, we all need to put our screens down and get back to face-to-face conversations at the coffee shop, at Early Edition this morning, sitting at the counter and talking about things face-to-face.
There is a new conversation, I'm sure you're aware, underway in this community in the last couple of years, just about the need for private sector job growth, right, and job creation. And the basic premise is K-State and Fort Riley have long been economic sort of anchors for the community, but you cannot necessarily always count on them providing the economic oomph that they've always provided. And so if you want to grow, you got to bring in new jobs. And that's clearly part of what you're doing. When you think about K-State, Greg Willems, K-State Foundation, we had him on here about a month ago. He talked about the new project at the Edge District, which would involve a high-end hotel, a steakhouse, and some other amenities. They want to pay for that through State Star bonds. And so have you been involved in those conversations, and what's that look like now?
Yeah, I have, and I'm excited about that project. I'm also excited about the fact that I think our state's higher ed system is coming around to an understanding that we got to catch up when it comes to public-private partnerships. And the fact is that you go around the country and universities have been bringing corporate headquarters onto campus where they have office space for these companies on campus. And what the Edge District has been doing and wants to accelerate and amplify is exactly that. That's how we're going to grow. These companies want to be close to the talent that is being trained at our universities. And so this is a great way for them to win as well in the increasingly competitive talent game.
Well, and in many ways, it's sort of indicative of what you described early on in terms of the things that you and the Kelly administration have brought to bear related to incentives. It's a different way to think about public universities, right? If you think of them more as a civic engine as opposed to an institution of academic higher learning, it changes the whole dynamic.
Well, we've left a lot on the table as it relates to the state's investment in young people. So when you look at the fact that we have every year about 12,500 higher ed grads from the state's Big Six universities leave Kansas every May. That's what happens. They go to other states. So as Kansas taxpayers, we've invested in the buildings, in the professors, in all the under supports for these talented young people. And then they go to Austin or they go to Nashville. So our economic development strategy has been built in large measure around selling to companies, hey, we just lost 12,500 last year. Your jobs that you're having trouble filling in other places, you're not going to have that problem in Kansas. And by the way, look at the average GPAs of these students. Look at the quality of the programs that we have at these universities. They're better than these other places.
We are visiting today with Lieutenant Governor David Toland, who also serves as Secretary of the Kansas Department of Commerce in the administration of Governor Laura Kelly. He is the number 2 man on the org chart in state government, and so I guess in many ways you can describe yourself as a heartbeat away. Do you think about that very much?
No, not very much.
She's healthy, right? There's no fear that she's ill or anything like that.
Oh my goodness, no. Trying to keep up with the governor is next to impossible.
Well, I can imagine that's the case. So we talked about the Chiefs. We've talked about the K-State Edge project. You've talked about Scorpius. These are big, shiny, glossy projects, right? Is that what keeps you going? What is it that you derive joy from most in your job?
But I guess what I have derived the most professional joy from is rebuilding that team at Commerce. We had a department that had been decimated, and I was told that there was nothing left when I took the job as Commerce Secretary. That wasn't true. What we actually had were a whole bunch of great, highly talented people who just needed some oxygen. And we were able to provide some oxygen and then bring in some new folks. And together, that blend has built what's a top 5 state-level economic development agency, and we've done that very quickly. Kansas has garnered the most private sector investment on a per capita basis of any state in the country twice during the Kelly Toland administration. We have broken every single record for job creation, capital investment, tourism, you name it, in state history. We've got we're at $32.4 billion of private investment that's come to Kansas, 85,000 jobs since 2019. So those are fun numbers, but they're all based on the team that has done it. So that's what I've enjoyed the most professionally. The Chiefs, Panasonic, Hilmar, Merck Animal Health, all these
big shiny
flashy
projects.
stuff.
Yep.
I'm proud of that work. I've enjoyed that work. What is most meaningful to me as a human, as a kid from Iola, is when we can take an old building on a main street in a town of 1,500 and turn it from a place that's been abandoned to the pigeons and get a loft built on the second floor and a coffee shop on the first floor. and that you see the impact that has on the surrounding businesses. And you bring things back building by building, block by block, town by town. Next thing you know, your whole state's cooking with gas.
When you think about economic development in 25 years into the 21st century, right, and you have described sort of the evolution of the work that you do, and you think about the demographics of Kansas, and right or wrong, we are sort of becoming a state that has a lot of really significant population centers and then a rural center whose decline has been underway for 100 years in some cases. Does that require, that can't be a one-size-fits-all program?
Well, it can't be, and it hasn't been. So we've been thoughtful on the side of rural Kansas. Governor established the Office of Rural Prosperity as a way that we can shine a light and have a really sharp lens on the unique issues that are impacting rural Kansas and how do we get these towns moving again. And we've had some great successes all over the state. And that comes in things like HEAL grants, where we fix up the old buildings, to taking a block and installing high-quality, very artistic signage on the retail stores, to new welcome signs and murals and things that help give people a sense of pride in their place. Something
that you might describe as aesthetic, but when you think about the meaning that it will bring to the people who live there, and it's kind of hard to sort of evaluate the measurement of that, but it clearly has meaning.
Well, and it does have meaning, and mood matters. Community mood really matters. And so if you're in a place where people feel hopeful and optimistic about the future, that's contagious. And when you've got a business or a resident that's trying to decide where they want to live, do you want to live in the place that looks good and where people are happy and positive, or do you want to live in the place that isn't like that? It's not
a hard decision.
It's not hard.
The supporters of David Toland see him as a pragmatic deal-maker, dragging Kansas into a more competitive modern economy. His critics see a risk-tolerant operator willing to trade transparency and taxpayer leverage for splashy wins. We'll talk about all that stuff and land the plane with Kansas Lieutenant Governor and Commerce Secretary David Toland very shortly. Stay with us. The Trust Company is an independent, locally owned wealth management and investment company founded right here in Manhattan in 1992. The experienced professionals at the Trust Company are recruited specifically for their financial, legal, accounting, and business expertise, but they're also your neighbors. They will be guided by your hopes and dreams and will come to deeply understand your aspirations and goals. The Trust Company, locally owned, client-focused. Their only allegiance is to you. Visit thetrustco.com.
This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio KMAN.
Manhattan Broadcasting is keeping it local. Dollars spent locally today help build a better community for tomorrow.
WTC Fiber Internet is on its way to all of Manhattan. Sign your home or business up today at WTCKS.com. No contracts, no data caps, or overage fees. Fast, local, reliable. WTC Fiber Internet. Sign up today at WTCKS.com.
The annual Flint Hills Festival is Saturday, May 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Blue Earth Plaza. This free event includes admission to the Flint Hills Discovery Center and features over 50 vendors, live entertainment, food trucks, activities for all ages, and more.
It's time for spring cleanup. Find what you need and the brands you love at Midwest Ace Hardware. Make yard cleanup easy with Ego or Stihl trimmers and blowers. Fertilize and seed your lawn with Scotts. And enjoy cookouts all summer long with Traeger, Blackstone, Weber, or Big Green Egg. Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folks.
Manhattan Broadcasting is keeping it local. Find more great local businesses plus special deals and offers when you keep it local on our website.
Every child has strengths, even during the hardest moments. Youth Community Services at Pawnee Mental Health provides comprehensive, personalized support for children and teens facing serious emotional challenges. We work alongside families, schools, and community partners to create stability, build coping skills, and restore hope. Because with the right team in place, progress is possible. Take the first step today. Call 785-587-4300 or visit pawnee.org.
The Manhattan chapter of the Barbershop Harmony Society is presenting their spring show, Barbershop on Broadway, Saturday, May 2nd, featuring Little Apple Chorus and Heartland Harmony, with special guest Brouhaha. Doors open at 2:30, show starts at 3 p.m. at K-State Student Union. Purchase your tickets in advance from a chorus member for $15 or $50 per family, or at the box office the day of the show for just $20. You won't want to miss the Little Apple Barbershop Spring Show Saturday, May 2nd at Forum Hall at the K-State Student Union.
Right now, the Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
I don't think Joker wins another MVP. And it's not because he's not deserving. He's just not going to win it. And Wemby is on the way. We're lucky to be treated to young players. Now, Joker's not young, but he's still doing things that nobody's ever done. You know, we need a new story here.
The Dan Patrick Show.
Dan and the Danettes and you.
Dan Patrick, weekdays at 1 on News Radio, KMAN. Your daily dose of sports conversation. The game starts at 4. This is Within Reason with Mike Matson on News Radio, KMAN.
We are back to wrap up our dialogue today with Kansas Lieutenant Governor and Commerce Secretary David Toland, who is in Manhattan today to appear on this show. And you've got some other stuff going on in town.
Yeah, we're got a couple business meetings. Then we head west to Salina. Then back to Topeka, so we're all over the place today.
So you're all over the place, right, in Kansas, but I am picking up some hints from the conversation that you're also all over the globe.
Yeah, we not only are going from Johnson County to Johnson City within Kansas, but I do extensive domestic travel to California, to New York, to Chicago, to key markets, and then next month I'll be on the first of at least 2 trade missions internationally. So,
well, and
Asia.
So that brings up the question, right? This notion of foreign direct investments in Kansas, right? And then you juxtapose that with what we are hearing out of Washington D.C. with respect to the policies that the president wants to promulgate related to America First, and is there some friction there?
Well, America can be first and is first when we win massive investments like the Japanese corporation Panasonic investing $4 billion and hiring 4,000 people in Kansas, or when the Korean company CJ, which owns Schwann's, so the yellow trucks, Tony's Pizza plant in Salina is Schwann's, which is owned by Koreans. And they have invested close to $1 billion in building the largest frozen pizza plant in the world in Kansas. So it's critically important that as a state where we have a lot of momentum right now from the work going around the globe selling Kansas to companies, that we not lose that and that we not walk away from it.
When you have those conversations overseas during the trade missions, do they inevitably say, well, I'm hearing different things coming out of Washington than I am state capitals? Do they get it in the foreign nations?
They do get it. And, we can only control so much, of course, at the state level.
Right.
And at the end of the day, what occurs in Washington, D.C., that is federal policy, and so be it. At the state level, we want to ensure that we have relationships with friendly countries and friendly companies within those places. And so we work really hard to make sure that we show up and that we show up regularly and we establish deep relationships. And it has been a successful recipe for Kansas.
We are visiting today with David Toland. He is the Lieutenant Governor of Kansas and also serves as Secretary of the Kansas Department of Commerce. You're what's described as a lame duck. All right. The governor is not seeking re-election. She can't. State constitution only allows for 2 terms, and then they're done, and you're connected with her. There was an assumption in Kansas, in political circles, that David Toland is going to run for governor in 2026 because he is so visible, because he's been so successful at economic development. It was sort of thought by a lot of people who do what I do and others that this is a slam dunk. You chose not to run for governor.
That's right. I did, and all the discussion about me running for governor was coming from people who aren't me. And
that happens a lot.
It's funny how that goes. And the fact is, I've never been on a ballot in my life. I didn't run for class president or dog catcher or anything ever until I was Laura Kelly's running mate in 2022. And so I fancy myself as a professional economic developer, as a business owner, as somebody that is focused in that world. And so I made the right decision for my family, with 2 kids, and having made considerable sacrifices as a family to do the public service that we've done the last 7.5 years. At some point, I think it's time for somebody else to step up and carry the work on.
Well, it's a great point, and it's one that is easily forgotten and people don't think about in terms of those who serve in the roles that you are in public service. Give us a sense of just some of the things that you've missed out on with your family and what you're going to get back into once you leave this gig.
Well, one of the unique challenges of being both Secretary of Commerce and LG is that as Lieutenant Governor, I can't leave the state when the governor is out of state.
Is that a statute, or is that just
it's
sort of a best practice?
Well, yeah, we believe that's the right way,
Sure.
the responsible way to run state government.
Sure.
And so you want to take a family vacation in the summer. If the governor is on business travel or any sort of travel, you're severely restricted on when you can do these things.
You got to get the calendar out and say, well, maybe 2 days here.
It is exactly. It is a complicated endeavor to try to figure that out. And of course, I have very long weeks, very long days, and I'll be gone for 16 days on an international trade mission. So I'll miss a birthday party. I'll miss just being home with my kids, with my wife, with my family, and enough is enough.
You have described your career, right? When you worked in Washington, D.C. for the mayor of Washington, you came back and managed a deep-pocketed philanthropy doing good things in southeast Kansas. You've served as lieutenant governor and as commerce secretary, clearly involved with politics at every level of your career. When you got this job, did you expect the sort of vitriol that you hear from hard-right Republicans toward the work that you and the administration has been doing?
I guess I would answer it two ways. The first is, I expected the vitriol. I am somewhat surprised at how much worse it has gotten and how quickly it's worsened. And I think we're at a really dangerous place in our democracy. And I think it's critically important that we lower the heat. I'm a big believer in the Kansas Leadership Center, and they have a saying about we've got to raise the heat in communities. And I used to be a believer there, but I've come around to thinking that everybody's role, whether you're in an elected office, an appointed office, if you're serving coffee at the cafe, we all need to do our part to try to find common ground, to bring about a greater sense of civility. And Governor Kelly has talked eloquently about the importance of returning civility to our politics.
Lieutenant Governor David Toland, Kansas Commerce Secretary. Last question for you. Thanks again for showing up today. But last question, when you think about your next step, right, you have built a boatload of really important relationships, right? I'll make an assumption that you'll have an opportunity maybe to go to the private sector, earn some money. Maybe you could do something back in philanthropy. What's next for David Toland, or do you know yet?
I have maintained my home in Iola, which was where my grandmother grew up. It was in our family for 62 years. It was out of the family for 30. We got it back about 15 years ago. Big 3-story Victorian. It needs to be painted. And I've got a man lift that's getting fixed up right now, so I'm going to paint that house as soon as I'm out of office.
You got plenty of work to do waiting for you in Allen County. When it comes to developing the economy and creating jobs, Kansas has been more aggressive, more competitive, and more visible nationally, also more willing to spend and take risks than at any other point in recent decades. My thanks today to Commerce Secretary David Toland, Kansas Lieutenant Governor, our deal-making salesman and strategist. He's chasing marquee wins while courting risk, wielding incentives and political heat with pragmatic optimism. You cannot argue with their success. Statewide advocates for the homeless have gathered in Manhattan this week. You will find frontline providers, those with lived experience, policymakers, local leaders looking to shape real solutions to homelessness across Kansas. Molly Mendenhall and Kayla Neer with the Kansas Statewide Homeless Coalition will join us on this program tomorrow. We are about, 20 seconds away from wrapping up our live radio talk show, but we're also an unedited audio podcast. You can find us on the KMAN website and wherever you get audio podcasts. My name is Mike Matson. This is Within Reason. Thanks for listening.
KS State Bank wants to be your bank. Find the solutions you've been looking for at ksstate.bank. KS State Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. KMAN, Manhattan. On News. Be your bank. Find the.
Thanks for listening.
KS.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.